It is not the first time we are witnessing these contradictions.
You need oil to power factories, you need oil to transport goods.
I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word.
Iran called it a gross violation of the ceasefire. The Iranian Foreign Ministry issued a formal statement. The IRGC said it shot down an American drone and fired on a fighter jet. Iranian state media ran this story as proof that Washington cannot be trusted, that America is the aggressor and Iran is the victim of unprovoked military action during a ceasefire it has been faithfully observing. The mainstream ran with it.
We have our deal done with Iran, and it should be successful.
Ceasefire violated. Peace talks in jeopardy. Iran threatens retaliation. Here is what was actually happening when the United States struck. 2 IRGC boats were caught actively laying naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz. A surface-to-air missile site in Bandar Abbas was locked onto American aircraft. U.S. Central Command struck both in what is described as self-defense. Iran was mining the waterway it agreed not to block. Iran was targeting American aircraft with missile systems, and when the United States destroyed both, Iran called America the aggressor? Iran can call it whatever it wants. The world watched who was laying the mines and who stopped them. That answer does not need a press release. And today, we're going to break down the full pattern of what Iran has been doing since April 8th, because it is a story that mainstream has been telling you backwards. Welcome to Our World Exposed, where we take the story the mainstream gives you and show you the side they deliberately left out. Subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. We cover this every single week. Drop a comment when this is done. We read every single one. Let us get into it. Let us establish the full timeline first, because Iran's claim that the United States committed a gross violation does not exist in a vacuum. It exists within a pattern of Iranian behavior that has been consistent, deliberate, and thoroughly documented since the moment the ceasefire went into effect. The U.S.-Iran ceasefire began on April 8, 2026. It was achieved after weeks of devastating military exchanges following the February 28 strikes by the United States and Israel that target Iranian nuclear infrastructure, ballistic missile programs, and military leadership, including the killing of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Iran needed that ceasefire. Iran needed it badly.
We lost our dearest person, we lost our elder, we lost our master. We gathered here because of this. I don't know what to say, really.
Its air defense systems were badly damaged. Its nuclear program had been set back by years. Its economy was being crushed by the collapse of oil revenues as the Strait crisis drove away buyers and disrupted markets. Iran agreed to the ceasefire. And then Iran immediately began violating it. Here is the documented pattern of Iranian ceasefire violations that Iran conveniently omits from every statement it makes about American aggression. Before the ceasefire, U.S. forces destroyed 10 inactive Iranian mine-laying vessels near the Strait of Hormuz. Then, 16 more operational mine-laying boats were caught actively deploying mines and destroyed. 26 boats eliminated in the process of mining a waterway through which 20 million barrels of oil flow every single day. During this period, the IRGC made a formal declaration. Any vessel belonging to the United States, Israel, or any allied nation passing through the Strait of Hormuz would be considered a legitimate target. During a ceasefire, Iran declared American naval vessels legitimate targets? And when the U.S. later destroyed boats that were actively mining the strait, Iran called America the aggressor. On May 4th, less than a month into the ceasefire, the IRGC dispatched a flotilla of small boats toward U.S. Navy vessels escorting commercial ships through the strait. American forces destroyed 6 of those boats in self-defense. Then on May 25th, 2 mine-laying boats caught actively emplacing mines during the ceasefire, destroyed. And a SAM site at Bandar Abbas actively targeting American aircraft destroyed. Each time, U.S. Central Command stated that the ceasefire was still ongoing. American forces were acting with restraint, striking what needed to be struck, and returning to a defensive posture. Each time, Iran called America the aggressor. The pattern is transparent. Iran conducts the provocation. America responds. Iran frames the response as the violation and its own provocation as legitimate defense. And the mainstream, eager for a both sides narrative, covers the exchange as mutual violations without asking who keeps initiating them. Let's talk about Bandar Abbas specifically, because Iran's foreign ministry described the strikes as attacks on the Hormuz region, framing it as an assault on Iranian sovereign territory, without explaining what Bandar Abbas actually is. Bandar Abbas is not a civilian city that found itself in the path of American aggression. It's one of the most militarized locations in the entire Middle East. It is the headquarters of the Iranian Navy's Southern Fleet. It is the primary base from which the IRGC operates its mine-laying programs, its speedboat harassment campaigns, and its anti-ship missile systems. It is the command center for Iran's strategy of the Strait of Hormuz control. The SAM site that was targeting American aircraft was not a civilian radar installation. It was a military weapon system integrated into the broader Bandar Abbas defensive network, a network that exists specifically to threaten American and allied military operations in the Gulf. Naval mines are indiscriminate weapons. Once placed in shipping lanes, they do not distinguish between American naval vessels, Chinese oil tankers, Indian cargo ships, or Japanese LNG carriers. The ship that hits an Iranian mine in the Strait of Hormuz, it could be carrying oil for China. It could be carrying LNG for Japan. It could be carrying food imports for nations across the developing world. When U.S. forces struck the mine-laying boats in the missile site near Bandar Abbas, they were stopping active military operations against international shipping and American military personnel, not attacking sovereign territory arbitrarily, not violating a ceasefire, stopping the violations Iran was committing in real time. Now let us talk about what Iran actually wants from the diplomatic process, because understanding Iran's objectives explains why it keeps provoking military responses while simultaneously claiming to be the victim. The peace talks currently underway through Pakistani mediation and Islamabad and Qatar mediation in Doha center on several Iranian demands: the release of frozen Iranian assets held abroad, the lifting of sanctions, recognition of Iran's right to continue uranium enrichment, continued influence over Strait of Hormuz traffic. Iran's central bank governor was personally present at the Doha talks specifically to discuss the $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets that could be released under a deal, a number Iran's government desperately needs. Its economy has been hammered by sanctions and the collapse of oil revenues during the Hormuz crisis. Here is the strategic logic Iran is executing. Every time it provokes a U.S. military response and then claims to be the victim, it serves multiple purposes simultaneously. It generates international sympathy and pressure on the United States. It gives the Iranian government domestic political cover, showing its population it is standing up to American aggression rather than capitulating. It maintains leverage in negotiations by demonstrating that it can continue to disrupt the strait even while talks are ongoing. Iran is not trying to preserve this ceasefire. It is using the ceasefire as cover to keep doing exactly what it was doing before it started. Let us be honest about the complications, because this channel does not do propaganda, and a complete picture requires acknowledging the full reality. The United States does not want this deal. Trump said the talks were going nicely. Rubio said a deal was possible. CNN noted directly that the Trump administration's eagerness to end the war is hurting American leverage, because Iran has calculated that Washington will absorb provocations rather than walk away from the negotiating table. That analyst is not wrong. Americans' desire for a deal is a real constraint on how forcefully the U.S. can respond to Iranian violations without risking the diplomatic process entirely. But here's the counter. The United States has now destroyed 26 mine-laying boats, multiple missile sites, and conducted dozens of self-defense strikes since the ceasefire began. The ceasefire is still intact. The talks are still ongoing. Iran is still at the table. The pattern suggests that the United States has found the calibration respond to every Iranian provocation with immediate and precise military action, while maintaining enough diplomatic restraint that the broader framework does not collapse, not absorbing the provocations, not ignoring them, destroying the specific assets responsible, and returning to the negotiating table. That is not weakness. That is the most difficult kind of strategic discipline, using force precisely enough to deter without escalating enough to destroy the outcome you are pursuing. Iran is toast, not because the United States is bombing it into oblivion, but because the strategy it is pursuing, mine the strait, claim victimhood, pocket concessions, maintain leverage, is running into a wall that does not move. Every mine-laying boat gets destroyed. Every missile site that targets American aircraft gets destroyed. Every Iranian small boat that approaches U.S. Navy vessels gets destroyed. And after each destruction, the United States says the ceasefire is ongoing, the talks are continuing, and the offer remains on the table. Iran can keep sending boats, and America will keep destroying them. The difference is one side is running out. Iran called the strikes on Bandar Abbas a great violation of the ceasefire. The actual gross violation was 2 IRGC boats actively laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz during a ceasefire that required the strait to remain open. Iran knows exactly what it did, and it knows exactly what the U.S. destroyed. Iran can call it whatever it wants. The world watched who is laying the mines and who stopped them. That answer does not need a press release. This is the world exposed. The story is never what they tell you it is. If this changed how you see Iran's ceasefire claims and what is actually happening in the Strait of Hormuz, drop a comment right now. Tell us, do you think Iran will ever actually take the deal, or is it stalling until the leverage runs out? We want to hear where you stand. And do not forget to hit subscribe because we are just getting started.